Hi, this is Chris, owner of Highline Handmade Guitars. In this video, I'm going to show you the behind-the-scenes process of building one of my guitars, the Highline Griffon. Construction began by fabricating the neck from a really nice piece of quarter-sawn canary wood. Since this neck will feature an angled headstock, I had to use my bandsaw to form a scarf joint. The gluing surfaces have to be absolutely flat, so I run them through my joiner. At the same time, I plane down the thickness of the headstock. Glue was applied and the two pieces were clamped together. While the glue was drying, I went ahead and started cutting the fret slots in a piece of Panamanian rosewood. After double checking the position of all the fret slots, I went ahead and cut the taper into the fretboard. A precise taper and smooth edges are critical. The fretboard's radius was formed by hand using progressively finer grits of sandpaper. In this case, I went with the 12-inch radius, which I feel is the most popular among guitarists. With the fretboard complete, it was time to route the truss rod slot. I'm using a simple template to guide my router. A hole is drilled into the headstock to provide access to the truss rod adjusting nut. I used the fretboard to draw out the taper on both sides of the blank. Then it was back to the bandsaw to begin cutting out the rough shape. I also used my bandsaw to rough cut the back contour. This will save me a lot of time later on. I used a paper template which I cut out of my full-size plan to get the headstock shape. With the rough cutting done, all that was left to do was to drill the tuner holes. I spent a lot of time working on the back contour. This was formed using a set of files from Japan. Then it was time to glue on the fretboard. The nice thing about Panamanian rosewood and canary wood is that it doesn't require a protective finish. So what I did was sand the wood to 4,000 grit. Then all I had to do was apply a mixture of orange oil and beeswax to get a nice satin sheen. I'm using Stuart McDonald's number 152 fret wire, which is my favorite. This simple tool helps generate a perfect 35-degree bevel on the ends of the fret wire. At long last, I was ready to start working on the body. Here I'm joining the glue edges of a slab of black limba. Then I glued the two together. Now I've got a nice blank ready for the body. All of the cavities, like this control cavity, were then sketched into position. I used some scrap MDF board to make a template to guide my router. After sanding the body to 320 grit, I applied Danish oil and rubbed it in using wet-dry sandpaper. I went all the way to 1500 grit, which gave the surface a super smooth satin sheen. I used a piece of black limba for the control cover and stained it dark for contrast. The body was then polished with a mixture of orange oil and beeswax. The electronics feature components that are of the highest quality, in this case CTS pots. After installing the tuners, I began fabricating the nut. Achieving a low buzz-free action is a painstaking effort, but it's well worth the effort. The final step was to tune the guitar, set the intonation, and then test all the electronics. Well, that about wraps it up. I hope you've enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at how I built the Highline Griffon. This guitar is currently for sale, and if you'd like to purchase it, Visit my friends at internationalblues.com and click on the link to Highline Guitars.